Narrow down what stories to share of Dad since it's such a short time, but there's so much to share. Thankfully, my life is filled with moments and memories of him. He was always cutting up, always joking, telling stories, finding reasons to make others laugh. Growing up, the weekend was my favorite time of the week because he worked construction and he was gone during the week, but came home on Friday. And every weekend, every Friday, I was just full of the jitters. So I was just thrilled for him to come home and get to see him. And I always wanted to be his sidekick. Didn't matter what he was doing. I just wanted to hang around and follow him. And I'm glad he let me. Didn't matter if that was Tractor Supply. Didn't matter if it was Lowe's or Home Depot. Didn't matter what we were looking at. I just wanted to hang out with him. He never liked to use air conditioning in his truck. Now, sometimes it's because they didn't have AC. Some of them did, and he still didn't use it. So we always rode around with the windows down. He'd sing or whistle, and I'd stick my hand out the window and use it as an airplane. He truly was the coolest dad. He always wanted to wrestle and play, and most of the time he started it. You can ask any of the kids that ever came to our house, and they can probably tell you of multiple times that Dad played and wrestled with them, whether they wanted it or not. And most of the time, to Mom's frustration, it was typically at bedtime when you're trying to settle the kids down and get them to go to sleep. But oh, the memories made. He taught me to love the outdoors, how to be quiet in the woods, respect nature, pay attention to things going on around me. He told me many times, there's a reason you have 2 ears and only one mouth. You need to be listening twice as much as you're speaking. Well, I can't say I've applied that 100% of the time, but I will continue to try. And he probably didn't make 100% of that either, because he sure did like to talk and visit. And he was always willing to lend a helping hand. He taught me how to check the oil and fluids in my car. He taught me how to change a tire, how to shake hands and look somebody in the eye. He taught me how to wear a smile and how to share it with everyone I meet. He taught me how to love having fun and to look for ways to have a good time. He taught me that having money, things, or position can't give you the fulfillment that you get when you sell out to the Lord. The hole in your life can only be filled and satisfied with Jesus, and Jesus only. He taught me to dream big, to trust the Lord to work out the impossible details. I remember calling him one time, and I asked him to be praying with me about a specific situation, and he said he would. And then, as only he could, he asked, well, have you prayed about it? I said, well, of course I have. He said, all right then. He heard you the first time. You don't have to beg the Lord. Now worship him for it. And those are words that I will try to live by. He showed me how to be sensitive to the presence of the Lord. He showed me how to be sensitive because he was. And how to surrender when the Spirit of the Lord moves in. He loved to talk about how good God is and oh, the change the Lord made in his life. One song he loved was the song Clean. And a line from that song says, there's nothing too dirty that he can't make worthy. And anytime that song was sung or played, he'd begin to weep and cry. Thinking back on all the mercy that God had applied to his life. That's what made him good with people. He didn't care where you were from. He didn't care what your name was. If you had a dime in your pocket. He saw worth in people. Because there were times in his life when he felt worthless and unworthy. But Jesus walked on the scene and gave him a life worth living. He was an amazing encourager. And you could be down in the Mully Grub singing the "Oh Why Me" song, thinking things would never get better. But if you ever let him get talking to you and telling you what he saw in you, you'd walk away ready to take on the world and thinking you were all that in a bag of chips. It's because of him that I love cowboy and western stuff. It's like he branded me. I didn't have a choice. He'd share stories of how he worked on a ranch as a young teenager, how the work was hard, how tired they would be, but how much he loved it. He was born for that life. He was a man who would sacrifice and do whatever was needed to be done to take care of his family. I always knew that I was blessed to have such an amazing dad. But I've been proud to watch him minister to and touch the lives of others. There have been so many during this time that have messaged me and told me of the impact that he had on their lives. And all I can say is, I know. Because I was blessed to watch him do that from the sidelines. Daddy never cared for my fashion sense. He always looked at me and rolled his eyes when I walked out in my stiletto or platform heels. He'd shake his head and say, "Those aren't boots. I hope you don't have to walk anywhere." Well, Daddy, I wore my boots today just for you. I'm so thankful for all the prayers, all of his prayers that will continue to live on. I'm grateful that the impact he made on my life, my husband's life, and my children's life will live on. I'm glad his words of advice will live on. I rejoice that his legacy of walking with the Lord will live on. And Daddy, today, you've passed the baton on to us. And more than ever, I'm determined to make heaven my home, because I refuse to say goodbye. But as you would say, love you, see you later.